If you told me a year ago that I would spend the next year stuck at home, I would have called you crazy. Little did I know, that's exactly how the last year's played out. I remember the day I found out about the shutdown. It was a week before our scheduled spring break, and as soon as I heard that we were going to get 4 weeks off, my natural reaction was excitement. It was like 4 unscheduled spring breaks. I then watched as those 4 weeks turned into six. Then those 6 weeks turned into the rest of the school year, which turned into the summer, and here I am, a year later. The quarantine I initially dismissed as a 4 week spring break is still in place, and the COVID-19 pandemic has completely transformed the world. I know that due to the pandemic, many students have been attending school virtually, and I know firsthand that the virtual school experience is nowhere near the traditional school experience. In a time where it feels like the world's been flipped upside down and everything is changing so quickly, it can feel impossible to try to keep up. This is exactly how I felt at the start of the school year. The concept of sitting in Zoom meetings for 6 hours straight had never truly registered with me until this year started. And I was exhausted trying to understand everything in online school and keeping up with assignments, all while trying to ignore the global pandemic and turmoil that was happening right outside. I struggled at the beginning of the year, especially with time management. I found it much easier to manage my time while in physical school because in virtual school, I just felt as if I spent my whole day sitting on my desk every day, and it was just a cycle of going through the motions. I know many other students have probably gone through the same thing as I did, and that got me wondering, how do people get out of these types of slumps and adapt to these completely new circumstances that seem to change daily? I started looking into how I could fix my struggles with time management, and I found this really cool concept called the Pomodoro technique. Essentially, the Pomodoro technique focuses on short 25-minute intervals of highly concentrated work with no distractions and short breaks in between each work interval. I decided to try out the technique and also started using a planner to track what I needed to get done on a daily basis. The technique and planner helped me get on track, but it ultimately wasn't able to change the one thing that played the largest role in my issues with time management and productivity: my mindset. During this whole pandemic, my mindset to that point had always been just get by and go through the motions, and you'll be set once the pandemic ends. This mindset was what was causing me to struggle with time management, not my work strategy or not having a planner. Every day when I woke up, my outlook on everything was just get on Zoom, go to class, do your homework, and then repeat the process. Looking back at it, I realized that my entire outlook and perception of things that were happening in my life were all based around my mindset. But how could I change my mindset? It's not like I could just flip a switch and I'd be back in a groove and all my problems would be fixed. I started researching how I could approach fixing my mindset, and I came across the concept of reframing. The idea behind reframing is that one's frame is one's outlook on life and provides a context for one's thoughts and actions. And changing your frame can impact how you interpret and react to an experience. My frame up till this point had been that COVID-19 was a roadblock, stopping me from achieving my goals. But the more I looked into reframing, I began to understand that this frame was what was holding me and millions of students around the world back from our goals. The thing is, it's incredibly easy to lose yourself to the noise and just be overtaken by the events happening in the world. As students, our frames have been extra heavily shaped by our environment and surroundings. So it makes perfect sense that this pandemic completely flipped us, along with the rest of the world, on our heads. But now that we understand that it is our frames that shape our mindsets and behaviors, the question is how we can actually do the reframing. It all starts with the underlying issue that caused the initial frame shift, which for many is the pandemic. Many people, myself included, have considered the pandemic as a time where it's imperative to solely stay afloat and to focus on going through the motions. This state of thinking is what drives our actions and ultimately our jobs and productivity. So, what if we started to think of the pandemic as an opportunity to grow and become more skilled, spend time on things that we're passionate about, and then come back stronger than ever once the pandemic ended? After all, the pandemic has arguably presented us with more time than ever before, and we've all picked up many skills throughout the pandemic. For example, our familiarization with technology has quite obviously improved greatly, which will eventually help us succeed in an increasingly technological world. In addition, our ability to strive during such unprecedented times shows that the sky truly is the limit once the pandemic ends, and the thought is comforting to say the least. All in all, while we must recognize we are facing unprecedented times, it's crucial that we don't let this realization negatively shape our mindset, thoughts, and actions. that we seek the light even in such dark times where it feels incredibly easy to get lost in all the noise. Let us all be aware of our frames and what we truly want to get out of the pandemic. Because as author Wayne Dyer once said, if you change the way you look at things, things you look at change. Thank you.